Welcome to the Friday Fraudster podcast with Kelly Paxton, pink collar crime expert, Joe Irvin, your person for all things ethics, and Robert Berry, the guy who helps you ask better questions. Join them as they discuss sad, funny, and sometimes disturbing fraud stories. Be sure to catch past episodes on your favorite podcasting platform or go to www.fridayfraudster.com and grab some CPE while you're there.
Ooh. Hey, Kelly.
Hey.
Another Friday, another fraud, hey?
Oh, yeah. Big fraud. Big fraud.
Big and unbelievable, too.
Yeah,
so,
crazy.
Kelly, I was trying to exercise the other day. Trying. Notice the operative word, trying. And I got this stitch, like right here on my shoulder. It kind of hurt when I went up like that. So I was trying to figure out what to do. So what do you do when you need health advice and you're a stubborn man like me and you don't want to go to the doctor? Well, I guess you're not a stubborn man, so I guess that X's that part out. But
you use Chat GPT.
Ooh. You know what? You got me. I could have just used Chat GPT. Here's what I want to know to everybody joining us on episode number 104. Something's just not adding up. So when you need to go to the doctor and you really don't want to go because you're stubborn, what is the source that you consult? What is the source that you consult? Kelly brings up a good point. Chat GPT is here now. And Google, they have unleashed their Chat GPT equivalent, Bard.
So I used to call it Dr. Google. But this is funny. This week, I was flying home from Nashville and got stranded in Denver, and then finally, got out the next day. And I'm sitting next to, so a guy comes and sits next to me, and I'm in the back of the bus because basically I was lucky to get on the plane. And he sits next to me and he's got a mask on, which, I don't have a problem with that. And then he's got an emergency room doctor newsletter. And I'm like, so I started talking to him and we talked the whole entire time. It was really, really interesting. But I asked him about AI in medicine. And it was kind of fascinating. And he's just like, they have a hard enough time doing charting with verbal, like nuance and epic and all that sort of stuff. But it was a very interesting conversation, let's just say.
Oh, yeah. Needless to say, AI is changing the healthcare profession. Now, Richard said, check out Matt Kelly's latest Radical Compliance. He has a Chat GPT example that is totally wrong. I haven't seen that one yet, but I've seen a few where Chat GPT told one young man that he was going to marry him and told him he didn't love his wife. That was real scary.
Oh, well, they said that I asked if Elizabeth Holmes was a pink collar criminal, and it only went through 2021, but it said that she was charged. Therefore, she is a pink collar criminal. And I'm like, hello, if you're charged, you must be convicted.
Yeah, something's wrong.
And they have this thing that they call hallucinations. Have you heard that?
Yep.
Someone came out. Okay, so do you listen to the Hard Fork podcast?
Sometimes, yeah.
I really have totally gotten into it. I mean, I love Casey Newton because of Kara Swisher, but I don't think it was them that talked about it, but people are like, don't call it hallucinations. They're mistakes. So there was a whole thing about that. Yeah, Christine just put the ChatGPT scores on the CPA, not good, but you know what? The paid version of ChatGPT for the bar,
yep,
90%. So it just goes to show, okay, I did a presentation this week and there were probably a total of 400 people, online in the room and in another overflow room, not one lawyer. Oh my God, it made me so happy. So happy. But yeah, just, we talked briefly about AI. It's fascinating. I want to find a really, really good investigator specific AI course. So anyone out there know a really, I know, Robert, you've done one, but yours is more towards audit. I want to find like, and I was out with Kim Green of Pursuit Magazine, and I was like, you guys have got to do it. And I was hoping they can maybe get a person I know. I suggested to do it.
Somebody has got to do one because it is taking over. So listen. So I did end up going to the doctor. I did end up going. And while there, they had tons of magazines out that could tell you what was wrong. Fortunately for them, they didn't use the company that is the subject of today's story. So let's talk about this. There's a Chicago-based health technology company, and what they did was they installed tablets in doctors' offices, digital screens, and then they went out to pharmaceutical companies and other healthcare organizations and recruited them to advertise on these screens that were in doctors' offices. Now, back in the day, it was television monitors, and then it migrated to the smaller screens. So, I mean, you got to imagine that's got to be a good business, right? I mean, people were in the doctor's office and they're hurting and they're in pain. And if they happen to see an advertisement for some pain medication that could help them out, how could that go wrong? That could never go wrong. Or could it?
We're here to show it could, and it did.
Apparently, high-ranking executives in the organization just went through a 10-week trial. And, well, they were found guilty of doing a few things, but part of their scheme was they were overinflating the statistics coming out of the system, which meant that they overcharged and overbilled for advertising. They're saying that the scheme took place from 2011 to 2017 and resulted in a $45 million being overbilled in advertising services. What do you think about that, Kelly?
That's some money. That is some money.
That's a whole lot of money.
Yeah. I don't know. Is money the root of all evil? I don't want to think that. I really don't. I know someone like from growing up who's going through a really big trial right now. And we've had discussions about like, did he do it? Is he going to be found guilty or non-guilty? And these are like a lawyer and a really good friend. And I'm like, so I started my presentation off in Nashville differently than I normally do. And my thing is I'm a CFE and a PI teaching ethics. Why am I teaching ethics? And my response to it, because I, always work on my little openings, is that because I have seen people of every possible socioeconomic background, but everything, make really poor decisions for a monetary reason. So that's why I think people should listen to me about ethics, because I've arrested bad guys, I've arrested nice people, I've arrested everyone in between. And a lot of times, and Richard just said it, love of money, not money itself, is the root of all evil. People just think money solves problems, like whatever problem, your marriage problem, your work problem, it's short-term thinking.
More money, more problems.
Yeah. Yep. And Bob, the love of money. Yeah. But I say it's really easy for me to say this. I come from no immense privilege whatsoever, but I've at a point in my life where that isn't the thing that motivates me at all. And you guys probably know why.
Now, David makes a really good point too. He says money magnifies problems.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Money magnifies.
And like Richard says, it does help out at times, but it's usually a short-term solution.
Yeah. Well, I've read studies where they've said that above $85,000 per year, your happiness level does not increase anymore or
Oh,
decrease.
I'm going to be right back. Okay.
All
Right back.
right.
'Cause I'm going to show you guys something.
So yeah, they say above $85,000, money does not increase your happiness at all. But in today's story, the company is called, hold on one second. I have just lost my notes screen. The company is called Outcome Health. And they had an outcome, all right. Somebody stole money. So in the story, though, they're saying that the Justice Department is saying that one of the accusers fabricated data to conceal the underdeliveries from the auditor. So, in other words, they fabricated the data that they gave to their external auditing firm. Now, this wasn't a small company. Let's talk about this. In May of 2017, they went through a funding round with Goldman Sachs, Capital G, Pritzker Group, and others, and they invested 600 million in Outcome Health, giving it a $5.6 billion valuation. It was based in Chicago, and this marked the largest single funding round in Chicago since Groupon in 2011. And I know we remember Groupon, right?
Okay. I got my book, you guys. It's called Happy Money: The Science of Happier Spending by Elizabeth Dunn and Michael Norton. It's really interesting. I don't have like all my bookmarks yet, but I heard her on a podcast. I know Michael Norton's work. It's really, if you think money can't buy happiness, you're not spending it right. So I don't know. I'll just type it into the chat, the name of it, because you guys might like it. I'm enjoying it so far. And I'm going to make my kids read it.
Yeah, so now, according to a report in the Wall Street Journal, unnamed former employees and advertisers accused the company of overcharging the customers for advertising and misquoting third-party analyses and falsifying documents on the ad performance. So that's what they're accused of doing. But it gets better. In November of 2017, the CEO left, and then a number of advertisers stopped working with the company, and investors sued the company, claiming fraud and breach of contract. That almost sounds like Elizabeth Holmes, right? Where the investors decided that it was time to fight back. But along the way, by the time all this happened, the company, again, was valued at more than $5 billion, had 500 employees, and one round of debt financing resulted in $30 million in a dividend going to one of the executive members, $7.5 million going to another, while an equity financing resulted in a $225 million dividend to two others. Sheesh.
It's crazy. It's really crazy. It's clown money. It's so
Right?
unreal. The amount of money that is so unreal right now is just, people don't have any perspective.
Yeah. So if you're just joining us, we're talking about Outcome Health. And what they did was they provided doctors' offices with televisions and tablets, and then they got advertisers to advertise on those televisions and tablets. So it's likely while you were sitting in a doctor's office between 2011 and 2017, if you saw television advertising something, that was probably them. Now, unfortunately, they were accused and convicted of falsifying the numbers, so making the revenue look bigger than it actually was. Along the way, they received seed money from investors, and the executives at the organization got 30 million, 7.5 million, and approximately $200 million in a payout. Now, that begs the question of, when you're raising money for a company, typically you're raising to either A, research and develop the product further, or B, expand the product and scale the company, right? So why such large payouts for these executives? That's really interesting.
Yeah. Red flag, huge red flag. I mean, Yeah, huge red flag.
Yeah. Now, Baba says people do not use or develop their ability to think things through and the fact that there are many things outside their control. So they believe they can misappropriate funds. Yeah, they believe they can't get caught. Here's the thing, though. So it really makes you wonder in this case, what was the motivation behind it? Because they had already received some seed money, they were already in operations. So were they that far off of their projections? That would be my guess, that they were so far off of their projections that they decided to falsify. But here's the other thing. They actually fudged the numbers enough to where it fooled the auditors.
Oh, I also have a really good podcast episode I'm going to drop into the chat that I listened to this week that about auditors that I think is I'm going to put it. And I did the Tennessee comptrollers, and a woman listened to it, and it was really, she had a really good response. So, Stephen Thomas, is anyone familiar with Stephen Thomas, the lawyer who sues the Big Four for missing fraud and wins?
No. What?
It's a really good episode. I listened to it on the plane, and it was a really good episode, but I'm going to go to my email. Speaking of auditors,
Oh, my
where
fraud.
did she send it to me? She sent me this really nice message, and it was so funny. She says, let's see. She goes, you had said you aren't an auditor, so I wanted to let you know that while the attorney did not say anything that is incorrect, he did have several points that could be construed as being disingenuous. Imagine that from an attorney.
Huh.
And
so
then
I didn't really lie, but I just kind of stretched the truth just a little bit.
Well, and then she goes on. For instance, auditors, and then in all caps, are not required to set up the procedures to look for fraud, but we are required to report fraud if we find it. And we are required to find material misstatements regardless of the cause. So, yeah, it's a really good episode. And you know me, I don't like to listen to lawyer podcasts, but it's good. I like Oh My Fraud. I've had Greg Kite on my podcast. Yeah, Richard, I guess reasonable assurance didn't.
So Richard says, I guess reasonable assurance. Yeah, Richard says, I guess reasonable assurance doesn't mean what I thought it meant. Yeah. I mean, there's no way that an auditor can catch all fraud. But I will say, in this particular case, though, I, I would imagine that data analytics would have shown a significant difference in activity. And that's where we have to learn to be more tech savvy and data aware in our operations. You know, we can't just pull samples and then look at one-offs when we have this whole pool of data at our disposal.
Yeah. Which we have so much data, and now we have AI to help us with the data. The LLMs, large language models.
Oh God. Yeah, AI is going to take over and replace us humans at some point in time. Hopefully I'll be gone by the time that happens.
So you mean next year?
Yeah, I know, right? As fast as it's growing. You know, so but I'm still just a little baffled by this case. Now hold on. There is an update though. There is an update. Let me see. So the CEO was convicted on 5 counts of mail fraud, 10 counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of bank fraud, and 2 counts of money laundering. The former president was convicted on 5 counts of mail fraud, 8 counts of wire fraud, and 2 counts of bank fraud. And then the former chief operating officer and chief financial officer was convicted on 5 counts of mail fraud, 5 counts of wire fraud. 2 counts of bank fraud, and 1 count of false statement to a financial institution. The 3 have yet to be sentenced, but they have.
They're going to Camp Cupcake.
Probably so. Yeah. I mean, that's.
So what else is interesting is there's 3 other outcome employees pleaded guilty before the trial. Out of this whole group, 1 woman. 1.
Oh, I saw that there were 3 others. I didn't even see the woman.
One
Huh.
woman.
Wow.
There's a professor who does a study, and he shows that women are not invited into these sort of complex white collar stuff unless they have a role to play, like, they're lower, they can make the journal entries or whatever, and they don't actually profit. Women don't profit. The professor's name is Daryl Steffensmeyer. He's done some really interesting work.
Well, what happened to equal opportunity?
Well, they don't invite him in. I think it was him. He kind of jokes it's kind of like the mafia. Like they don't bring the women in unless they have to because the woman can do a certain skill.
Now, get this though. In the ultimate, it's not my fault plea, the defense attorneys are arguing that the blame should actually fall on another former official who actually pleaded guilty to wire fraud and testified against the 3 other former executives.
Yeah.
They say snitches get stitches, but it sounds like snitches get to go free after you testify on the other people. Now, let me see.
First one on the bus gets the best ride.
Oh, I never heard that before. I like that. That's very
You've never
true.
heard that? Oh, yeah.
I've never
Prosecutors
heard
use
that.
it all the time. They're like, first one on the bus, you're getting the best deal.
Yeah, wow. Makes sense. Now, Bob says sounds like the white collar frauds to the tune of 12 Days of Christmas. It really did, didn't it? Richard said, does it still count as a pink collar crime? It doesn't.
Nope.
Oh,
No.
darn.
Position, not gender.
This one was a weird one. I'm still just a little. So it kind of reminds me of like Clear Channel Outdoor. So, Clear Channel is a media company that owns a bunch of radio stations. Bless you. But they also own billboards that you see outside when you're driving down the interstate, right? So I'm thinking, if you have your equipment in the doctor's offices, by the way, the doctors didn't have to pay for the equipment. They supplied the equipment. And today, televisions are cheap. Tablets are cheap. So if you supplied the equipment, you just run the ads. I mean, granted, if you didn't have customers, you didn't have customers. But at some point, if you shared part of the revenue with the physician's office, why would I not run an ad? So I just wonder what more was behind this one.
Well, the other thing is knock on wood, I don't go to the doctor's office very often, but I did have an experience recently where I accused the doctor of owning stock of the thing that he was trying to push on me.
Oh, and I remember you talking about that.
So the other thing is, like, do you really want to put all these ads up and then like 15 minutes of your appointment the doctor wastes when you're like, I saw on that video out there this drug. Could that be helpful? Like, I kind of think it could be a conflict of interest. I think they should just go back to playing elevator music. We have our phones. Like, it just kind of seems like upselling could happen. Are there conflicts of interest that need to be like, I don't know. I haven't been into a doctor's office where I've seen something like that. But as a patient, I would like, hey, are you getting a kickback for this? Like, do you get like a spiff if you give, 50 prescriptions a month to ABC drug cocktail? Like, I wouldn't like it. I think it's the medical industrial complex. So, but I'm probably going to get sick because I say that.
Well, and to your point, though, there is something called the Stark Law, which prohibits kickbacks from physicians, from the pharmaceutical companies. So they would have to be very careful on what they actually advertised and how they advertised it. Yeah. Ooh,
so I don't know. I think there'd be a lot of wasted time. Like, I know my mom watched a lot of television and she's like, oh, you should try this and I'm like, turn it off. Like, turn it off. But I'm not old yet. And so maybe when I get old, maybe I will be that way. But I should hope my kids will do like a parental block on my TV. I don't even have cable. So I'm too cheap.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you for joining us for today's episode. Episode 104. Something is not adding up. Hopefully you get that now. Adding up, get it? No.
And the
You
next
know,
time you go into your doctor's office, and we hope you don't unless it's preventative, pay attention to what's in the waiting room and stuff. Pay
yeah,
attention and report back to us.
yeah. But a lot of the waiting rooms, they'll have a television in the corner, and you know, you want to watch the game or something, and it's looping some sort of something that you don't want to see.
Yeah.
So
Bob's like, I would think there would be a tie between what's advertised and what's prescribed.
that's what I would think. You know, like if you're going to a podiatrist, there'd be some kind of foot fungus commercial on or whatever. See you, Clarence. Thank you for joining,
Yeah.
man.
Thank
Thank
you,
you for
you
joining.
guys. Have an
All
awesome
right.
weekend. And it's beautiful here. I cannot tell you how excited I am.
Yeah. Yeah. Your tan is gone now.
Don't say that. It is. It's fading. But summer is here and it will come back. I need my vitamin D.
Oh, all right, guys. We'll see you all next week.